Dear friends, welcome to Tbilisi. I'm very glad to offer you the opportunity to experience our city even in this difficult times for all tourism destinations, and I hope that it will give you enough ideas and inspiration that you will visit our city next year and experience it in the real life. So welcome, let's start. The geographical location and the landscape of Tbilisi makes it to a city of viewpoints, and I want to share several picturesque viewpoints of old Tbilisi, the ones that I like a lot. So from this one, next to the founder of Tbilisi, King Gorgasali, you can see the structure of the old city very clearly. So you see it climbing the hill where Narikala fortress is located. You see the sulfur bath on the left, and you see the road to the more modern part of the city just in front of you. So now we are in Abanotubani, which is basically the heart of the old city, the place where the history of the city started. The archaeological research proves that people were living here from the 1st century AD already. So there are the ruins of the old bath and the houses, residential houses, and there are some agricultural and working tools that were found here. But of course the meaning of this place grew massively when Vakhtang Gorgasali, this king that we already visited today, so when Vakhtang Gorgasali arrived here, according to the legend, he released his falcon to hunt the pheasant and found both birds in the hot springs, so he decided that it would be a nice idea to build a city on a hot springs, and there was also obviously the access to the drinking water, to the river, to the trade routes, to the forest. So basically it was a very good place to build a bigger city than it was here. And already his son Daci has moved the capital to Tbilisi from Tsheta, from the other town in this area. And you see also the so-called colorful bath, Chereli Abano in Georgian. It looks like a mosque, but in fact the mosque is behind it. You can see also the tower of the mosque. So this bath is the most beautiful and the most modern right now in the old town. Also, it's a well-known fact that Alexander Dumas and Alexander Pushkin were taking this bath and they enjoyed it pretty much. And also, actually, if you are a literature lover and you will read Ali and Nino, the book of Kurban Said about the love of a Georgian aristocratic girl and the Azeri nobleman, you will also find the episode about the visit to the Tbilisi sulfur bath. Actually, when I was in Georgia for the first time, that was my main motivation to go to the bath, to experience the same revival and the same feelings that Ali experienced. And now we are continuing to climb the hill with Narikala fortress on it on foot, because usually I offer my guests to take the cable car and then walk down on foot, but today we have to go on foot because of the pandemic, so the cable car is not working. So let's do some exercise and see some beautiful spots on the way. Follow me. So here we are, Narikala fortress, one of its walls that are well preserved. Narikala used to be the border of Tbilisi, so on the other side it was already not the city. The city was pretty small, so you see it in front of me, like these red roofs. According to them, you can definitely see where the borders of the city were. Then on the left you see the modern parts with a lot of very eclectic buildings. And on the right there is also the modern part and the sulfur bath that we have already seen from more like a close perspective. Now we can continue our route. We can leave Narikala walls again and take the trail to Betlemi Quarter, which is one of my most favorite parts of old Tbilisi. Let's go. So this is one of my favorite routes because it gives you enough exercise, so you can burn all the hachapuris that you have ever consumed in Georgia, and it shows you beautiful corners that you cannot reach with the car, which is also like a big plus. So those people who take the bus tours in Tbilisi usually skip these points. Poor people don't do the bus tours in Georgia, walk on foot. And well, let's go, follow me. So now we are on the Tbilisi viewpoint. Behind me there are two small churches, and in front of me there is another like beautiful angle of Tbilisi. Tbilisi name is related to Bethlehem, as you can hear basically, and I should mention that Tbilisi was always very multicultural, and in this part there were especially many Jews, but almost all of them have moved out to Israel in the like late Soviet time, early independence time, so basically in the 80s and 90s when they got the opportunity to go there, because there were a lot of incentives offered by the state of Israel. So right now there are regular Georgians living here, and what I especially like about the Bethlehem quota is that the renovation here was made in a very accurate way, so they used the old materials to restore the historical face of this area, while during the restoration of the old town they used the new material, and that's why in the beginning it looked a bit, like too bright. Now let's take one of the street stairs or stairs street and go to Sololaki, the historical area in the old town that is famous for its mansion houses and the fact that there were a lot of noble residents. David Sarajishvili had a brilliant education. He has studied in Tbilisi, St. Petersburg, Germany, and he ended up in France, where he met Jean-Baptiste Camus, the wine grower and the cognac producer. So he learned a lot about the technology and opened several distilleries, not only in Tbilisi, but also in Yerevan, in Vladikavkaz, Kizlyar, and basically all around the Caucasus area that used to be a part of Russian Empire. So he was not only the entrepreneur but also the philanthropist. So this house became the house of writers after his death, according to his testament, because he wanted the brilliant minds of Georgia to have their own residence. And actually this is also the house of writers nowadays, which is amazing. So Sarajishvili's ideas keep living and flourishing. After visiting this house, we continue to the house at the same street, at Mockbeat Street in Tbilisi. It was also the private house of a merchant, of a Kalantarov family. There is a legend that connects this house to the opera house with Tbilisi. Later we will see the opera house and we will understand why. But actually the legend says that the future wife of Kalantarov asked him to build such a beautiful mansion for her, and only in this case she will get married to him. But in fact she just got married to him without any condition like this. They had 5 children and it was actually a happy family. Now let's take a walk around Rustaveli Avenue and see several interesting buildings with the interesting story. Rustaveli Avenue is one of the biggest and probably the most central in the whole Tbilisi, and it's very walkable, but it also has a lot of cars, so forgive me if it's too loud right now. Now, it's not a surprise that in every village or town or city of Georgia there would be a street or a square or any other place named after Shota Rustaveli, who lived actually in the 12th century, but his poetry, his masterhood was so big that his fame lives through centuries and remains a part of Georgian identity. But actually, in the Russian Empire time, all the signs of national pride were not welcome. So this avenue was named after Alexander Golovin, who was one of the rulers of Transcaucasia by the time. And there is a fun fact related to the renaming of the avenue to Rustaveli Avenue. So in the beginning of 20th century, there was a group of artists, poets, writers, and basically the people who would be called activists right now. The name of the group was Blue Horns. They were spreading the gossips about the avenue getting renamed, and finally, when the gossip spread it all around the city government understood that it was already, it went too far, and they actually renamed the avenue after Shota Rustaveli. And another short fun fact about one of the buildings at Rustaveli Avenue. When you look at the 7-star luxury hotel, you will never guess what was inside there before. And I will tell you, that was the Institute of Marxism and Leninism. Now let's take a break and have a sip of traditional Georgian lemonade called Laridze waters. Mitrofane Laridze was a son of Kutaisi actually, but his fame went far beyond the limits of his native town, native city. So he was working in a pharmacy, but he was also a big fan of good drinks, obviously, and he created the recipe of the fruit syrups, natural fruit syrups that could have been added to soda water and result in such an amazing drink. Actually, it was something like Soviet Coca-Cola at some point. Of course, it's available in some restaurants and some other cafes around Tbilisi and Georgia, but this one carries this taste of childhood for many Georgians who grew up in the second half of the 20th century. So now we are trying the pear and chocolate and cream taste. I hope that if you visit Tbilisi, you will also taste it and like it as much as the Georgians used to like. The next stop at our route at Rustaveli Avenue is the Parliament building. I would call it a center of protest culture. And why culture? What do I mean? So basically, as a person who moved to Georgia from another post-Soviet republic, I should admit that I'm fascinated by the ability of local people to express their lack of understanding of current politics. For example, the most significant protest took place here on the 9th of April 1989, when thousands of people went to protest against the Soviet power. So they wanted to express their will not to be a part of Soviet Union, and this protest was violently ended by the regime, by the army, but it was the beginning of the end of the Soviet system, not only in Georgia but all around this area that was covered by the Union, so to say. And also last year in 2019 in June, there were very big, massive, important protests of mostly young people who were not who didn't agree with the politics of Georgian Dream Party that was clearly pro-Russian. And right now, when you and I sit in different corners of Europe, in the center of Tbilisi, another protest is happening, because this time Georgians are not agreeing with the results of the elections that were obviously falsified. So this is very remarkable place and very important one for public opinion expression. Let me show you another outstanding building at Rustaveli Avenue that is related to the name of merchant Mikhail Melikazaryan's, famous for his wealth, his charity activity, and his tragic destiny. So actually, when he started building this house in 1912, he was spending his money quite extravagant. One of the urban legends says that he was even using wine instead of water. Probably it's also related to the fact that wine was cheaper than water at some point. So once he was done with the building, his young daughter died after the long disease. Basically, you can see that the windows on the upper floors are shaped as the crying eyes. And in 1921, when the Red Army entered Tbilisi and they started establishing the Soviet rule, Melikazaryan also lost everything. He got only one room in his mansion and died in poverty. Now we are at Rustaveli Square and in front of Rustaveli Metro. This is actually the deepest metro station in Georgia, built in 1965. It is 60 meters deep and the escalator length is 120 meters, which is pretty long. Georgian metro was the fourth in the USSR to be constructed, which is pretty peculiar. So the main rule for metro construction in Soviet Union was that if the population of the city is more than 1 million people, then the city can have a metro. But why Tbilisi has got the metro after Moscow, Petersburg and Kiev? So why Georgia? Well, the urban legend connects it to the influence of Georgians in the Communist Party. Actually, the rulers of the Georgian Soviet Republic used to start the metro construction even before they got permission from Moscow. So once they got it in the early 1960s, the first station that we see now was already open. I'm not sure how true it is, but I would say that the metro is pretty efficient and it helps connecting to far removed parts of the city, Varketili and Kildani, to the city center. With the help of metro, we arrived to Mgzavrebi station, and in a couple of streets from here, we see the main hipster point of Tbilisi, Fabrika. This is a popular place also for street markets and for different open-air events, so you can see a lot of young people hanging out here. This is quite a fashionable place, and it's for those who have been to Europe, lived or studied there, and now they have kind of this nostalgia. But also we have street markets in the other spots, for example at Orbeliani Square. So almost every weekend, even during Corona time, we have the markets where people can buy the made in Georgia things, different handcrafted items, and taste various street food. Well, usually the markets at Fabrika and Orbeliani are pretty full. And let's walk a bit more and see some other beautiful places of Tbilisi. Our tour continues next to the very merry place, one of the most important modern sites of Tbilisi, the theater of Rezo Gabriadze. Rezo Gabriadze is in his 80s, but he's still being very creative, and he's curating every show of the theater, as well as the cafe, and basically everything that relates to the work of the theater, including the design. You will see that every hour on the clock tower of the theater there is an angel who is ringing the bell and indicates the time. So usually in the pre-pandemic times the whole square in front of the clock tower was full with people filming it, but today I am alone, and I hope that you are watching this show from all around the Europe. And also this theater has the smallest clock of Tbilisi, which is also a very peculiar thing. On the roof of the theater there is a Latin saying that says that the only reason for you to cry will be the laughter. So I wish you a lot of smiles and good mood, of course. Alright guys, thank you very much for being with me in this Tbilisi tour. I hope that you enjoyed and got inspired to visit our city next year or whenever you have the opportunity. We are finishing our tour in quite a beautiful, typical, traditional Georgian cafe. It's called Cafe Leila in the Old Town. I enjoy bringing my guests here so that we will enjoy the atmosphere of the old Tbilisi and taste something very special. This is the typical candy that is made according to the recipe of a noble family, Orbeliani. This is one of the most important families in the Georgian history. So they keep this recipe and they make these candies, and I hope that you will arrive to Tbilisi and enjoy it yourself. So it's the walnut and caramel, pure delight and a really good treat after the long walking tour. See you in Tbilisi. Bye.